Hey Roger, how are you? You are still, well, right now, if things have gone in the third set sort of the opponent's way, then you will just have been finishing up your match in Cincy today, right about now to 9:37 Eastern Time. So, I just want to say congratulations. First of all, I'm super proud of you, Roger. I mean, I haven't gotten to see a match of yours for a while, and I came a little late on this match today, and by the time I came to the match, it was the first set, and you guys were 4-4. Um, I mean, you just looked super good. You looked, confident. You still had a little bit of stuff going on, but I mean, why nitpick? Again, I thought you were playing in pretty much in top form, and then, you were all over everything on top of your, when you were on your serve, you were just all over it, not taking a chance with Rafa. And I thought that was really good. You had the match, I think, obviously in the second set. Um, but just a couple of pulling the trigger, taking that chance that you're really supposed to take, it just kind of unfortunately went the wrong way. However, I noticed that you were a little bit down on yourself with certain errors that you made. I personally, thought that some of the errors you made sense or were worth it to a certain extent. But again, you know, I think that the spirit with which you were playing the match is definitely something that you want to definitely like make sure you're stand in that spirit of the way you played this match today, because it was an excellent match. Now I will tell you this, of course, and feel free to criticize me for this, but after the first set, the third match, I turned it off because I don't know, get into this thing with you where I'm like, I feel like I'm like jinxing the match or something, so I turn it off. Now, in the past, I've been sometimes gotten to the point where I'm entirely too nervous to watch the match, so I will turn it off. But then there are other times when I feel like, I don't know, this weird feeling like, oh, because I'm watching it and wanting you to win so bad that I'm kind of jinxing it, so I'll turn it off. And a lot of times I'll turn it off and then you'll be winning. So unfortunately, I don't think this time around, since you were at 5-3 um, last time. But I think some important things to really look at, Roger, is again, you tend to very frequently take the first match off of Rafa. Today you were really on top of your game. However, I think you still are wrestling some personal demons. Um, gremlins, whatever you want to call them. You're still wrestling that a bit, but I feel like this is an excellent start. And if you stay on top of the way that you played against Rafa today, then you'll definitely rise again on rankings. I just saw on Twitter somebody say you're gonna be number 7 in a couple of days, but you know what? I think again, seeing you play today against Rafa, whose legs are relatively fresh. I mean, when did Rafa come back on the scene? Did he come back in February, or was it early March? So I mean, he's only been playing on his legs like 4 or 5 months. Wait, hold on, let me get that right. April, May, June, July, August. Okay, yeah, about 5 months, and if you were really, in terrible dire condition, you certainly wouldn't be able to take a first set off of Rafa and play toe to toe and more than toe to toe in the second set. I think so this really is a testament to, you know how do you, want to do this and attuning yourself to, how you were playing today mentally for the most part. I feel like you were really, really composed, or in the spirit of being composed. I'm sure, there were times where I could see little cracks of the old Federer, but so what? Overall, you were amazing. I was so happy. I was so happy with you, Roger. I'm so proud of you. This is what fans want to see. Want to see you doing your best, and I really believe that you were doing your best, and playing at a very high level. And I think again, so if you can stay in the spirit of how you were very present, how you were on top of your game, you didn't slack off for one moment, you really, you came to net beautifully, like your rhythm was on, I mean, you gained, you won your games really quickly, at least on 2 or 3 different occasions that I saw you, like just coming in net and just really being on top of it. Some of the things that you were trying, I felt like, some of the things that you were doing, some of your strategies that you were doing on your own serve, I felt like you should have been doing on Rafa's serve. But then again, I was like, it's really smart kind of that Roger's doing this on his own serve just to ensure that he keeps his he's able to win the game. But I think you also could have, especially, my feeling was, why not apply that on Rafa's serve? But you are the tennis expert, but I still kind of want to challenge you just a little bit to consider what you were doing on your own serve, coming in net and stuff like that. I'm not sure if the strategy is as possible because, when you're serving, typically you have a little bit more of an advantage, obviously. So I'm not sure if, being able to come to net as much is as possible to do it on Rafa's serve as it was for yours. But I think, it was my instinct for you to try some of those things on his serve. But I'm not totally sure that I feel to a certain extent that my expertise. I have expertise now. Whoa, Roger, did you hear that? Like, my expertise. Whoa. Mind you, I hardly play tennis. But anyway, so I'm not sure that that's something that I feel like I would have to be probably a little bit more of a tennis player to really know the answer to that. But I'm going to suggest it and then see if you can play with it. But I can't tell you again, Roger, I was so happy. I was clapping. I was just like, I haven't felt that excited over how, you playing in so long. So again, I think a thing is to, number one, don't take this if you've lost, unless you've worked some kind of miracle, which would be absolutely amazing. It's great. I think you were in a total position to actually win this match. It just so happened that it was kind of like a shift in the wind, And the thing about Rafa you have to understand is that it's funny because when he plays other people, he looks like he's totally dominating him, right? He doesn't look that way with you. You were doing really well, and I think you broke him pretty easily, relatively in the first set. So I just think that if you don't let if you haven't won this match by now, you don't let it get into your skin, but what you do is totally embrace, like fiercely embrace playing the way you did today. Like the actual mindset, the actual high level of being attentive, the actual confidence in the risk taking, and risk taking isn't risk taking when there's confidence behind it. Let me put it like that. I guess you were playing, I don't know the word for it, but you were playing openly and you were hitting your shots. And I did make a couple of notes here. Oh yeah, I want to talk about your backhand, right? I want to give you huge kudos, okay? I remember in my last video, and I was like, ranting, and stuff, and I was just saying how to sort of embrace your what's considered a weakness, or embrace a quality in your game that a lot of people can exploit, or have been able to exploit, or something like that. Um, and I saw, of course, Rafa serving to your backhand and hitting to your backhand any chance he basically gets, you know. But what I saw a few times which was amazing, is that you made him pay, for serving to your backhand. I mean, it was one amazing shot where, I mean, he served hard and he could have, like, had you sort of on your heels, if I remember correctly, and you just, like, smacked this amazing backhand cross court, and it was just awesome. He couldn't get to a lot of your shots. And he served at least twice. He served to your backhand, and you were able to put him on the run because you returned the backhand diagonally, cross court, to what would be his left hand side. But you sent him on the run, and really think, Roger, you have to fiercely and vigilantly, ferociously defend your psyche in just understanding, like, how amazing you were doing in this match, like, and really stand in all those things you were doing, and don't, let this be a match that was kind of like at the drawing board. Like, one of my very old videos from probably like uh, a little over a year ago, I talked about how Joker and Rafa had to keep going to the drawing board and trying things against Federer and losing, but but had small successes in certain things, but went back and kept practicing, and then going up against Federer again, and then trying a little bit more things, and then now instead of 10% of things working against Federer, now 20%, or 15% of things were working against Federer, or 15% improvement in defense was working against Federer. So it's the same thing here now. Now is not the time, I would say, for you to get down on yourself in any way, but for you to fiercely see, like, you still really, honestly, Roger, you still really have this. You're playing in top form. I think if you go back and you look at the match, you'll be able to see that Rafa was able to gain little points. And that's his strategy always. Like, when he's losing, he says he always tries to stay. If he's trailing, he always tries to keep his points as close to the opponent as possible. As close to the opponent as possible. As close to the opponent. So he always keeps playing. He always keeps playing. He never drops off. He always, keeps the level up. And it's kind of like, I talked about this in one of my videos too, how my father used to tell me when I would run track and run a race, like, if someone were in front of you, or if someone just, you're running or whatever, and someone just passed you, and when someone is passing you, it's almost easy to lose your own momentum and just almost, let fatigue kick in all in one moment and just stop, but if someone passes you, to just really stick in there, lean in there, and pretend that a rope is tied from your waist to their waist. So every time they move up, so it's kind of like you're moving like this. It's not like it's like the person passes you, but you kind of stay with them, even if it's like, this to this, you're evenly moving as if a rope were tied from their waist to yours. You're evenly moving with them. You're not letting them go more and leaving you out. So that's the thing that also reminds me of Rafa. It's a certain pacing, it's just like, okay, my focus now is to just keep the points as close as possible, and don't lose momentum. Now, I think when you got broken in the second set, that of course, that probably threw you off just slightly mentally, and it wasn't as visually evident as things have been in the past, when playing against Rafa, but it was still evident that it did affect your momentum. So I would say, you handled the situation a lot better than usual, and this is it, and to know that you can handle these situations mentally. Obviously, I know you've been playing at this level for many, many years, but and winning and playing these high stakes, but just knowing again, like, being extremely careful at this point in time to not let yourself go off into feeling, like, just making sure that the result of this match is something really positive, and knowing that your potential, is amazingly still, it's there, and you still can do so much, which including beat Rafa, so I want to kind of jump back really quickly and go, Rafa does things, and I saw him do certain things that he did with Joker. What he'll do is, in order to gain his little points, he does that little thing, and he ends up reeling people in. He just makes sure that he focuses on the one point, kind of like a fishing rod. He kind of ends up by just focusing on winning that one point each time. He ends up reeling the person in, and also mentally kind of breaking them down too. So, kudos to him to a certain extent. And also, I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place. I'm sorry, but I do want to say this because this thought just came up. Know your impact. So funny, an ex-boyfriend who, for me, was like, he was such a just bleh, But I remember one time, I was having an issue with, like, a so-called family member, and he was like, oh, so blah 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 blah, and he was like, you need to know your impact. It's like, the person did this to you, they found out it wasn't this, and he said, now you need to understand what the impact of that was. So anyway, I'm sorry to go off into my own thing, but just knowing what your impact was, like, you had Rafa on edge. You know what I mean? You had him making adjustments and different things like that. And you also had him, I think it was in the first set when he didn't get a chance to convert break point. He was like, ugh. And you very rarely ever see that kind of emotion from Rafa. You'll see it now more in recent years a little bit, because he's been losing a lot more. He's been challenged a lot more, perhaps, than his run at number one in the world. And, he's just been challenged a lot more, I guess, to a certain extent. But he knows his own limitations, but his thing is that he's just he's pretty relentless, He's probably one of the most relentless people. But at the same time, Roger, you need to understand your impact of how unrelenting the quality and the fierce amount of, again, for lack of a better word, quality of your tennis is that puts him on edge as well. So you need to really recognize your impacts, and you had a big one against him in this. Now, what Rafa does, and now I'm going to jump back to the point that I wanted to make a couple of minutes ago, was what he does with Djokovic. How he'll try to exploit getting a point. Suddenly what Rafa will do is, he'll do this sneak attack, he'll like slap the ball or whatever, and it'll have all of this extra, he'll put at least 10 more miles per hour on it than expected, on a strategic, like if you're hitting the ball here and you're over there, all of a sudden Rafa needs this point, all of a sudden he'll just put an extra, just a real extra amount of speed on it. And he did that a lot with Djokovic at, why do I want to say Roland Garros? Where did they play? Good Lord. No, he just lost to Djokovic. He just won against Djokovic, but the time before that, I think it was Roland Garros, I'm pretty sure. and Rafa was losing, and he started doing things like putting a lot of speed on the ball, like a sneak attack speed ball. So just understanding that what Rafa's limitation and his desperations are, and that he's just reaching out for things that will work, that will just get the point, and understanding the difference between that and the difference between the quality of your game, and understanding that just adding up those little sneak attacks and things like that doesn't mean that someone outplayed you. So really getting those things, understanding, sorting those things out in your mind so that you really keep your psyche up really high to understand you were playing exceptionally well. You were playing, you were on top of every point. I think a thing you need to realize is to go back and really watch that match so that you can see how great you were playing. Not only just feel it in here, but actually see it. And just also understand what was happening and how Rafa was able to exploit points off of you, because he's able to put a lot more speed on the ball at times. And it wasn't like you weren't either, but he's able to, he's got that two-hander thing going on too. So that, that puts him to certain advantage to a certain extent, and even with, it's so funny, Roger, because even with people having a double-handed backhand, double-handed forehand, they still can't fuck with you. Excuse me for saying, like, I just had to say it like that, even if even if he's won, he's still not a better player. Good at exploiting issues, good at finding ways by exploiting, making little exploits. But at the end of the day, honestly, it's not impressive. And I'm not saying that because I'm a Roger Federer fan for life. I'm just saying that because it's the truth for me. Kudos to him, for raw talent, for just raw beat, like Rafa's a freaking beast. It's at the end of the day, like his there's just a raw drive within Rafa, this relentless thirst for wanting to win, for wanting to be in that spot of the winner, and just doing what it takes, because it's just a raw desire in him. It's a raw burning desire, and you can see that, and it's almost drives him more heavily than anybody else. And I don't, for a lot of people, like Serena has that in her too, but I don't think anybody on tour has that thirst, or it's not a thirst, maybe that's a bad way, but it's almost just a raw quality. It's just this raw flame burning inside of him, and he just really wants to. It doesn't matter who he's playing against, whether it's Federer, whether it's Ferrer, whether it's Del Potro, whether it's, it's just, it doesn't matter. So anyway, again, your confidence was great, and by the way, just want to thank you, Roger, thank you, darling, for lobbing at 3-4. I think it was in the second set. Because otherwise that point would have been lost, and I think there are a couple times, I think, that you might want to do some more you're good at lobbing, but I think a lot of times you can lose points because you're hitting, you're kind of the person, the opponent has you a little bit off kilter. You're in the mid court. You manage to get the ball back, but you don't manage to get it back. You're not in a position where you really can control it to get it away from someone. So you end up hitting it into the court where someone ends up returning a passing shot. But the fact that you just lobbed against Rafa, he wasn't able to get that ball. Like, I was so thankful that you just didn't hit it back to him. And I think that if you hold on to things like that and give yourself a few extra balls, you're going to be totally straight, Roger. Like, you're going to be winning so much more. You just apply your entire attitude and approach that you had today, and you're gonna just keep going. You're fine. There's nothing wrong. You know what I mean? You didn't seem to have any back issues, which is great. I suggest just constantly getting acupuncture. You know, I told you in another video around Wimbledon 2012 that you know, I've never really had many back issues, though I don't stand up straight for a while. But I had 1 year some issues, and I kept going to the chiropractor, and I kept, you know, she kept cracking and aligning my back, and I was doing it every single week, and you know, it was just like whatever. And then I went to an acupuncturist, which was, you know, it's weird, it's a little bit overwhelming, the thought of it at first, but I tell you, the woman put nails, I said nails, 3 needles, 3 nails, 3 nails, oh my God. That's gonna sell you on acupuncture. Somebody putting nails in my back, okay? But excuse me, three needles into my back, and I swear to God, ever since then, that was probably like a good 15, 16 years ago, I haven't had any real issues, with the exception of one issue last year, as I put in one of my videos. But I think, you know, constant acupressure and acupuncture will be very helpful, you know, to your back. I mean, unless you've already been trying it and it hasn't been something that works, which would be an extreme surprise to me. So in any case, yeah, it's not something, acupuncture, you know, if you have reoccurring back issues and stuff like that, acupuncture isn't something that you just do once. You know, it's something that you probably would do, you know, talk to a really informed doctor. I think ideally an Eastern doctor versus a Western doctor, unless you get somebody who is really kicked up, you know, from the West, who really, really, truly just back and forth knows their shit, and they're just totally passionate about it. So they have been able to completely absorb all of the knowledge, you know, not only just mentally, but just have it by osmosis in their bones, you know. So otherwise, I pretty much recommend going to an Eastern doctor who kind of has this passed down from generations and is sort of culturally in line with, you know, the medicinal traits of it, and things like that. So anyway, yeah, just again, kudos. You know, again, I'm just going to go ahead and curse here because I just feel it. There's no other way to express it. But you absolutely weren't fucking around with points on your serve. So kudos to you. I love that, Roger. You know, third set looked like, you know, you got broken twice, lost some momentum. But I think, you know, again, I'm super duper proud of you. And you should be so proud of yourself. Oh my God, I'm talking so long now. What else is new? Yeah, again, you should just be so proud of yourself, the way you handled this match. And I think, you know, you keep taking it like that. You definitely are playing in a high form. You know, you just need to understand that what's happening is you have to just keep working and keep plugging away and figuring out how to close off more opportunities where these guys are taking advantage of the speed. You know, it may require you to. This is how, I mean, damn, if I really had time, like Roger, I would sit down and watch your matches, and I would do the percentage of times where guys were able to sort of exploit points, you know, exploit you to win points based on the fact that you return something, either you are on your heels and you return something at a slower speed, or, you know, you just, you know, off the backhand, you return something at a speed that was just really manageable to exploit. And I think that is actually what happens with you quite a bit. And if you're able to really take a tally of those times where those things happen, then I think, you know, you can get yourself in a position where you are, you know, just put in like a little cheap little plan, like, okay, if I'm here, I need to make sure that I'm hitting it this way. That way you're not all like trying to figure everything out at the last minute. Or, you know, I know that's already my rough spot. You know, I know that there's a chance that if, this ball is at this angle, so you know what, let me eliminate the chance that I'll end up here in the forecourt and then on my heels, and then someone will be able to create a passing shot or something like that. Um, I think if you go back and take a tally of those things, that will be something that will really form your game, because you just be able to see that you're not necessarily doing anything wrong. It's just that you're in a few select situations that repeat themselves on court that people are able to take advantage of. And it's a good 3 or 4 different ways that people can do it, and those 3 or 4 different ways end up getting like getting you a lost game, like getting you broken. So I think it's just really important to go back, look at the times where you were able to be exploited, like when you were up at net, or if you hit it, you returned a shot that didn't have that much speed on it. That you should take a tally of that, and you'll see the commonalities between that those are the reasons why so much, outside of little unforced errors and stuff like that, which I think you did pretty good. Usually tend to have more errors than Rafa, for whatever reason. Today was the same. I think he had like 5, and you had 12 in one set or whatever. However, for me, you were playing a lot better tennis, overall in general, even though he was able to exploit some things. But if you look at those situations, you're going to be able to stay a lot more positive and really, really be able to be grounded in the reality that you absolutely can do this. You absolutely are playing. Roger, you're playing at like a really high competitive level, and that you'll look at Twitter yourself and you'll see people saying how great and high quality the match was. No one in their right mind is seeing any so-called signs of aging or anything like that. And then you're playing, again, you're playing a guy who just had 7 months of freaking break. You know what I mean? His legs are 5 months old, if that. And I really believe, I'm going to go as far as to say, I do believe that Rafa is on the juice again. No lie. I mean, just looking at him last week, I really do. I like Rafa. I don't know. It's from all my I've always loved Rafa in the past and stuff like that. I'm always a Federer fan first, but I've always loved Rafa. But I really think that Rafa is taking steroids. I really think that those things are true, because they were unrelenting accusations, and it was the same thing with Lance Armstrong. Not to compare the two, but I mean the constant unrelenting accusations. Sometimes there is smoke where there's fire where there is smoke. And now it was like 7 months. Rafa, all of a sudden had these bizarre issues with his knees. Nothing, once again, looked like anything was wrong with him. He took all his time off. Nobody understood what was really going on. And then some of his answers and some of Uncle Tony's answers, they were both like, they weren't in alignment with each other. They were a little contradictory at certain points, and something was just fishy. I do personally believe that Rafa was on silent ban. I think you already know that if you've watched my other videos. And then Rafa came back, after 7 months off, and he was skinny. So for me, it was kind of like, all right, so you're not doping. Meanwhile, I never thought that Rafa, it never crossed my mind that Rafa would be doping. But, for all the reasons I said in my other video, Rafa left a lot of us with no other choice. I mean, he didn't clarify anything, but he left us out there to just, smell something fishy and just be, just the behavior was suspect. So, in any case, like I said, he came back very skinny, which for me is like, if you're taking all this time off, and I know he was working out the whole time, a lot of times, because he would post that stuff on Facebook, and he was running around playing with his cousins, a little bit and stuff like that. Now, I just found it funny that he came back skinnier. You know what I mean? It wasn't like he was doing more strenuous work. He was probably doing work that was workouts that were a little less strenuous. So less strenuous means a burn of less calories, unless you were on steroids and you bulked up and then you got skinny because you haven't been taking steroids. You haven't been doping, and so for me, those are heavy accusations, and I feel like I took my time, very long time, before I would even say that. But the constant weirdness around everything that happened last year, the pulling out of certain events inexplicably, the little whatever weird reasons you were not showing up to certain events, and then not going to the Australian Open, pulling out of that 3 weeks ahead of time because you had stomach flu. It's just weird stuff. And then, like I said, came back skinny, and now he's like all of a sudden all bulky and big. It's not like he gained weight. Like Rafa was skinny in his arms, and when he came back, and he was just skinnier. So now his arms are like all big again, his legs, you know what I mean? Like, is it me? I don't think it is, but I feel like his arms got bigger. So I just feel like he's doping again. I'm sorry. I feel like he's on the juice. That's what I feel. So anyway, I know I talked a lot about that, but Roger, again, I could go on and on and on, as you know, but I have to tell you, I'm so proud of you, Roger Federer. So proud of you. Let me tell you, you did a great job, and I just can't tell you, like, the potential, the absolute potential I see, because of the evidence of the way you played the match today. You just have to figure out how to close yourself off from not opening yourself up to being exploited by speed, and from the other opponents, and I think one of the best ways to do that is to make sure that you're not knocked off on your heels as much. I don't know how that's probably a little difficult, but just understanding by looking at all of the other matches, those points lost by either passing shots or being overpowered, or shots that people were able to exploit because you weren't able to get it to the backcourt fast enough, or either B, it landed in the midcourt. So, those things, I think you close up and you keep playing like you did today. Like, just go out with good, straight mentality, stay on top of everything. You are really you're gonna get your rankings back. You run the race and do well and stay on top of your points on serve and get a little more aggressive. Oh, and that's another thing too. There are times where I think it would be interesting if you can get even more aggressive, certain times when you're returning points to Rafa and stuff like that. I mean, it was just kind of like hitting the ball back. And I know, there are other times where you were straight, tonight you were like hitting the ball everywhere Rafa wasn't and doing an excellent job. Do you have a problem with playing like that a lot more? You know what I mean? Like, does that feel funky to you, or like you're cheating or something? I don't know. I always thought maybe you might have had like a little bit of mental or a little bit of conflicting opinion on playing in that manner. But I think that in your rallies against Rafa, you can stay a little more aggressive, as well as just not cordially competitive. As that's how I feel you play sometimes, and that's what I feel gets you the loss as well, is being cordially competitive. Instead of just taking what's yours. And I'm not saying being a ruthless bastard or anything like that, but I'm just saying, just take what's yours. Just the way he was taking what is his against you, exploiting points, doing what he needed to do, throwing you off kilter or whatever. Even though you were running him around as well. But getting really aggressive where you need to get. And that doesn't mean just hitting off beautiful shots with your forehand. It means really forcing the issue when you're playing head to head against him in rallies. You know, it's not just, again, competitively getting those things together. So anyway, look, it's 39 minutes, but I think if you consider those things, you know, you're really going to end up staying at the top because you're playing in top form tonight, Roger. I'm super proud of you, and you know, this is where I know your potential is. You've got so many more years ahead of you, really. I mean, if you keep it up like this, it's going to be excellent. And I think, again, you know, it's wonderful because it didn't seem like there was a presence of so much mental uh, impediment going into the match. You were just there doing your thing, so it was really good. I think there was, of course, room for improvement. I think you still should work with a mental coach if you haven't been. You know that. And what's the deal with you dropping off the other racket? I mean, you know, what's up with that? I'm just curious. I hope you weren't just kind of giving it up. You know, for me, it's like if you gave it up that fast, you only took it on because maybe people suggested it or pressured you into it. I mean, like, what's the deal with that? You know, and I just wonder about that as well. Now, again, like I said in the video last year, you may find out, you know, one where I had the yellow dress on. Oh, it was during the Olympics last year. You may find out that the new racket isn't for you. But you know what? If you're going to go with a new racket, you might as well go with one with some real high technology. Because that one didn't seem like, you know, it just seemed like it was like a bigger racket. I don't remember reading anything as special about it, you know. And Rafa plays with those freaking all this damn technology and the strings and stuff like that. And you'll remember, too, last year when I read that article in French, it sounded so awful, that Rafa's practicing with this racket that I think clocks his speed on his returns and different things like that and different shots, and it ends up putting a whole bunch of information into a computer so he kind of knows how he plays and stuff. That might be the reason why he's come up with this strategy on doing this sneak attack, hitting all his speed on these balls sometimes suddenly, an extra 10 miles an hour on a ball just to throw off an opponent. I'm not sure, but I'm just saying. So, you know, again, I know I'm all over a little bit, but again, super duper proud of you. You know, again, you're playing in top form. You have all the potential, you know, to really be at the top, to really move yourself back. You know, it's going to be a bit of a marathon. It's going to be more of a, you know, running long-term thing to get yourself back up in the rankings. But, you know, I think if you just close off all of those things that I talked about, like really just go back and look at these matches. Take a moment to really not only just look at this match, but look at other matches where you lost points. You're gonna be, you know, and you figure out how to exploit your own so-called weaknesses, and you know, turn them into benefits. You know, kind of like what you did today where Rafa's trying to serve it, your backhand and stuff like that. And you said, you know, a couple of great angled backhands. I think you should hold on to that strategy because that was beautiful. I had him on the run, and that also gave you time to straighten up and deal with him, like slamming balls. Well, he wasn't ridiculously slamming balls, but, you know, putting a lot of speed on balls and stuff like that. So, you know, good job, Roger. I'm super proud of you. Just really keep it up and really acknowledge how great you were doing today. Like, I really want to say that, like, really want to look you, like, dead in the eye and say, really ferociously acknowledge how well you were doing. And just know that, you know, keep plugging away and staying with that same attitude and in that same spirit, and you're going to move up in the rankings. There's just no reason. You will naturally, as a byproduct, move back up in the rankings, and you naturally can be in the top 3, top 4. You keep it up that way. And I think if you keep playing this way as well, you will also have less mental, issues, because I think when we, not just you, but when we check out on certain things, it makes psychologically, there's an underlying guilt, there's an extra underlying bit of shame, some self-loathing, I think, and also the spirit of I can't do it, and it just opens this nasty door to really having that sagging bags of yuckishness, mentally. So I think, again, when you're showing up 100% like you were today, first set, second set, and you got a little off kilter, but it's okay. And there were a couple of errors you made. I saw you really get down on yourself and you hit the ball into the net. But for me, when I saw you do that, I was like, oh, it's okay, because the moment before you had made this major return, it was a really difficult return that Rafa had sent at you, and he already sent you off kilter. It's like anytime maybe that's what you should do, Roger. Anytime you already have just received a tennis ball, you're at the baseline, and you received a tennis ball where you're like, let's just say, maybe I should stand on this chair, but let's just say, I don't know, like you're already at the line where you're like, like, oh my God, it looks so, let me get down, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed, it looks so funky and weird. But if you're like down here, right? Instead of on your feet where you're like this, but you're kind of like down here, or you're like this, you're like this, and you're already off kilter, right? You need to figure out how to get back a ball, whether it's going to give you some timing, whether you hit the ball back slowly. I don't know if that's the right answer. I've seen Rafa do that years ago, where one time he hit the ball back slowly, but it still landed in the backcourt, so that someone didn't run up to the forecourt and just slam a passing shot. But anytime, you gotta figure out something. Like anytime you're like down here, you just returned a shot, you're just barely making a shot or something like that. You gotta figure out a way to save yourself some time. I don't know whether it's a lob. A lob might be bizarre, but you're Roger Federer, you can do it. Or whatever, but something to give you time to get back in this position in the middle, So, again, please excuse me getting on the chair. That did look really funky. But, again, I cannot tell you how much I am super fucking proud of you, Roger. I'm proud of you. Had I known you any better, I would give you such a big fat bear sister hug. Like, I'm super proud of you, so I'm sending you hugs from far away. You keep your head up, keep going. You're in an excellent place to go into the U.S. Open. Do not drop for one moment because I'm saying, oh, I'm proud of you, Roger, this and that. I expect for you to hold yourself to the same standard that you did going into this match, and I expect you to improve mentally. I can still see certain remnants, like I say, still wrestling with certain things, but whatever the case, you were completely, you were present for the match, and you were on top of it, and that's the way. If you continue to play that way and do what I feel I said in this video, somehow, some way, you'll figure it out brilliantly, just the way you figured out how to turn somebody, you'll figure out a way how to enhance, and turn your so-called weaknesses into something that works for you, just like you did with those backhands today that Rafa tried to exploit, and you completely angled them, and sent him on the run. It was super freaking successful, and I think you should practice that more. Maybe you should just practice more lefties or whatever. And I know you hate to do those drill things, like the machine that shoots the ball or whatever, but that might be of help too, even though you were handling everything good. And what's so funny too, and look at how much I can go on Roger. I can go on about Roger Federer. To see you play Roger, I love it. But anyway, the other thing I was gonna say is, Rafa is. It's so funny how people are different players against you, Roger Federer. You know, Rafa can do whatever the hell he wants to do in a lot of ways up against Djokovic, but for me, Rafa was confined. He was um, he was restrained a little bit, even though he was able to get over in a lot of ways. He was restrained, and it's so funny. Like, you'll see certain people play against Rafa, and when you see them play against a Roger Federer, they're different players as well. And it's just a testament to the quiet, unprecedented skill that you have. Other players may be doing well, they may be holding well in their rankings and stuff like that, but the complexity and the quiet quality of the tennis isn't of the highest order the way yours is. So it's very interesting, the quiet brilliance that your game has. And it wasn't so quiet before, but it's exciting because you do pick up little things, just like today. Just watching you the getting served into the backhand and just returning that cross court like that and just sending Rafa off, like, it's just a quiet, beautiful brilliance. So anyway, I could go on forever and ever, like, it. Look, it's 51 minutes. It's crazy. I'm gonna go ahead, but super proud of you, Roger. Stick to this. Figure out what you are going to do. Get serious about it. Do not lay back and don't get complacent. Stay and commit to showing up the way you did in this match, at least for the first set and a half. And, really just ask yourself, like, okay, where did I start losing a little momentum? Because it's like you got broken and then you got thrown off, and then it kind of went downhill from there. So understand what the slippery slope causes. Also, look at how Rafa was on the slippery slope for a moment. Not mentally, he doesn't really, it's hard, but he's just built that way. The rest of us are just, we just have to struggle to keep ourselves mentally composed. But Rafa's pretty much, he's just, you gotta have a little bit of a screw missing. And I don't want to say he has a screw missing, but he's just, the guy picks his shorts out of his ass. I'm sorry. So, you gotta have a little bit of something. If you're a little bit too normal, like a Roger Federer, you're going to be in your head and all this, that, and the third, and so many other people. But you're kind of like somebody who just doesn't care, like Rafa just has this blind lack of not caring. You could kind of see how he can just, the mind could just be relentless, because everything is just, actually, it's not, thinking Rafa, it's not even dealing in the mental, it's just dealing with what's going on exactly here. He's he's just one of those people who is not caring. He's just doing whatever the heart wants, whatever is. And it's so funny, because I talk about you, Roger Federer, being cerebral, and I know this for myself, being very cerebral, that we can psych ourselves out. There's so much thinking going on, and we're so busy in the head. But we need to, in yoga practice too, they'll tell you too, you need to bring yourself down into your body. And sometimes you could do that by, I don't know, even rubbing your bare feet on like a carpet or something like that, or just doing some extra breathing and stuff. But cerebral people, you're always going to kind of suffer from psyching yourself out and remembering and overthinking things and analyzing yourselves the hell out of situations. And so I'm going to end it on that. That's why I'm going to tell you to ferociously, again, hold on to how well you did in this match and how you really showed up and went toe-to-toe with this guy and even did better than him as usual, you know, in your purest form. You're you know, straight up, you're a better tennis player. I mean, Rafa and Uncle Tony have even said that, you know, you're better than Rafa. But, you know, you were going toe-to-toe with him and handling your business today. So, you know, if you can remember to go back into how the quality of how you were playing in that first set and a half, you're going to be good not only against him but against the other players because you were playing some of the highest quality tennis, period. So, again, I know I've repeated myself a number of times. Good luck. Let me look at these little things. Is there anything else I wanted to say? Oh, 4-5. This is what I wrote. 4-5. The score. I don't even know who the score. I think. Oh, the score must have been Rafa. 4-5. Point 30. You pressure Rafa. Really well, and the point after that too. You pressure Rafa really well. I think this was the second set. Yeah, it must have been second set because third set I was like, I'm not gonna watch that. And then, yeah, something about 15 point, whatever. Anyway, you pressure Rafa really, really good. And what else? Making him pay. Yep, I already addressed that. Oh, okay. All right, Roger, super proud of you. Talk to you later. Have a good one. And, you know, just going fresh, U.S. Open, you're going to do really well. I think if you look at all the things in this video, if you have an entire hour to sit down and listen to all of this. But anyway, super proud of you. I can't tell you I have not enjoyed a match of yours the way I did today. I just knew you were going to win that, but for me, you won it anyway, as long as you really hold a really good sense of where you are and what you need to do and the quality and spirit. If you stay in that same spirit, how far you're going to excel in this tennis match, and how beautiful. I mean, your approaches to net, man. Kudos to you. I'm really happy. All right, I'm shutting it off. Go, go, go.